everybody, this is Chad the Gaming Dad here once again, and welcome to another episode of Retro Fun or Run. This is the review show where we take a look at a game and let you know whether or not it is fun or if you should run. The game in question today is Boogerman, a pick and flick adventure. So first things first, I have to give everyone a warning. Warning! If you get a little grossed out easily, watch out, because this game is straight up potty humor to the max, dude. Boogers, loogies, burps, farts, and flaming farts. You battle various enemies like goblins, bouncing boogers, fart ghosts, pus creatures, trolls, ogres, and scab creatures. Plus, you get bonus points for popping zits. Nice! So, Boogerman came out back in 1994 for the Sega Genesis and was later brought over to the Super Nintendo. There are some subtle graphical changes, and the music sounds a little different between the two different versions. I prefer the Sega version, but it probably depends on which one you played first. You know, the first one you played is the one that you think is right. I prefer the Sega version. That's the one I played first, but honestly, you really can't go wrong whichever way you choose to play Boogerman. So get ready. The basic story of this game is that you begin your day as a guy named Snotty Ragsdale, who left his mansion and eccentric millionaire lifestyle to become a janitor at this certain lab so he could keep an eye on it. You see, Professor Stinkbomb had made a device to transport all of Earth's trash and pollution to Dimension Excrement. Yes, Dimension Excrement. It was all going well, of course, until there was a malfunction, possibly due to Snotty himself, but however the malfunction happened, it happened. And now it's time for Boogerman to return to save us from all this filth. Okay, wow. You can't make that up, right? I mean, I guess it's a fictional game, so the developers made that up, but I didn't make it up. I couldn't make that up. It's a very unique setting, to say the least. So the first level you jump into is called the Flatulent Swamps. And you play this game like a standard platformer. There are cans of beans that you collect to provide gas that power up your burps and fart attacks. Then you also collect little globs of mucus that refill your booger ammo. Pick and flick! There's other power-ups around like milk bottles. When you drink those, they allow you to spit loogies, which are much stronger than flicking boogers. As far as the burps and farts, there's only one gas button on the Genesis, the 3 buttons on the Genesis that this uses. The gas button, if you're standing up, will produce a burp, and if Boogerman is squatting down, it makes a fart. But just tapping the button will put out a burp or fart that will hurt an enemy that's right next to you, almost touching you. So, to use the burps and farts effectively, you have to hold down the button and make Boogerman really strain for it, and then when he lets rip, those burps and farts fly across the screen and knock out guys a little bit farther away. Now, the really fun power-up that affects the gas is the chili pepper. You get the chili pepper, and then if you jump and hit the gas, you actually fly with a flaming fart. Also, if you're going to shoot burps or farts on the ground, they're flaming burps and farts. However, you have to watch out because using the flaming gas does drain the gas pretty fast, so use wisely. There are 1-ups that you can collect in the form of Boogerman faces. You also collect capes. Capes are very important because basically they're your life meter. It works like this. You start off with a red cape. If you get hit, it turns into a yellow cape. If you get hit when you have a yellow cape, you're dead. So the yellow cape is basically 1 hit and you're dead, red cape is 2 hits. But then you can also find capes around, and every time you find them, they increase your cape level by 1, so you can have a max of 3 hits. And you know you have that when your cape is flashing. So watch out for capes! Also in each level there are zits on the ground. Yes, the ground has acne. Zits on the ground that you pop for points. There's trash piles to dig through that contain items. And then also you see these plungers all over the place that you collect. So if you collect 30 plungers in a level, at the end of the level, Boogerman will build a ladder, which takes him up to 1 extra Boogerman. Yeah! Booger! Yeehaw! If you don't collect enough, you get to watch Boogerman make half a ladder, climb up, and fall off. So that's fun. There are other things in the level you can find. One of them is an outhouse. You kind of see the roof of it sticking out. You jump on that and it works kind of like a flag in a Mario level. It's sort of the halfway point. If you die after that, you just go back to the outhouse. There's also teleport noses. You sniff up one nose and blow out the other. You also have toilets. You can flush yourself right down a toilet into a bonus level that contains items and plungers, and then you emerge from another toilet further down the level. Rad! So, okay, getting back to the beginning of the game, the first area is called the Flatulent Swamps. It has 4 levels and then a boss level. The first boss is a very politically correct name, Hick Boy. Yep. So each area is set up the same way with 4 levels and then a boss. After the Flatulent Swamps, you go to the pits, and the boss is Revolta. Then you go to Boogerville, and at the end of that, you meet up against Flyboy. Then you have kind of a unique area because it's the Mucus Mountains and the Nasal Caverns. They each have 4 levels, but they alternate. So you do Mucus, then Nasal, then back to Mucus, then Nasal, Mucus, Nasal, back and forth. Once you get through those, you get to a guy named Deodorant. And finally, the last area is the Pus Palace, where if you make it through all of that, you face off against the final boss, the one and only Boogermeister. These bosses can be a real challenge the first time you try to fight them, because they have a lot of quick types of attacks. They usually only have 3 or 4 different attacks, but they come pretty fast. But once you memorize those, and you see the patterns, you can avoid getting hit, and you just have to be patient, because they do take quite a lot of boogers and farts to take down.
Get him, Buck! Get him! Get him, Buck! Get him! Booger!
As far as the 4-level system, the first level of each area is a little shorter and easier, and then they get harder as they go. The thing is that the platforming and the fighting, the way you fight the enemies and stuff, it all stays kind of the same and does repeat itself a lot. But I personally never really got tired of it. But then again, I am just a simple man who pretty much always laughs at farts. Your enjoyment of this game will rely on your level of feelings toward fart jokes. This game does have some challenge to it. You will die a lot, sometimes unfairly almost. There's some very difficult sections because you need to play this game slow. You don't want to run through it. You need to go slow and watch out for the sneak attacks at all times. Sometimes enemies are just off screen and they may throw something at you, or they may be just at the top of like a hill or something you're walking on, and they're just off screen, and you go forward and bang, they're right there, and you run into them and get hit. Stuff like that. But if you go slow, and you kind of learn where the tricks are and what they're going to try to do to you, it's not too bad. Even though there's some difficult sections, thankfully there is a password system. It's a little bit limited, though, because when you put in the password, it only takes you back to level 1 of any given area that you're in. So, like, if you're on the Flatulent Swamps and you die on level 4, use the password, you're going back to level 1. That's not such a bad thing, except for when you get further on into the game when you're doing the 2 different areas that alternate, the Mucus Mountains and Nasal Caverns. Whichever one you use the password on takes you back to level 1 of that area. So let's say you played through Mucus Mountains 1, 2, 3, and 4, and in between those, you played Nasal Caverns 1, 2, and 3, and now you're on the very final bit of those. It's kind of like an 8-level area. If you die there, you go back to the first level of Nasal Caverns, which actually is only the second one of that 8-level section, you know? That's pretty rough. That's almost unfair levels and pretty frustrating until you get it down. But at least if you make it to the boss, if you die on the boss, the password will take you right back to the boss. So aside from that mucus mountain and nasal cavern area, the continue system, the password is okay. So as far as the graphics in that, they were all hand-drawn, kind of like some of the other games of the time, like Earthworm Jim. They all look really great, lots of color, they're very well animated. He even has 2 super funny and gross idle animations. Let him stand there long enough, and you'll find Boogerman either eating a booger, or he gets one stuck on his finger and it just won't come off. Moving on to the music and sound effects, those are really good. The tunes are funky, the farts and burps sound good, and Boogerman has these great lines that are often repeated, but I will absolutely never get sick of how he yells, "Yeehaw! Cool and rad!" And of course, this game has a button, a separate button that is only there just to press to have him give out a triumphant cry of Booger!
Booger!
I actually met a guy at Too Many Games a couple of years ago that was cosplaying as Boogerman, and no matter what I said to him, all of his responses were either cool or rad. Now that's rad. I loved playing this game back in the day, and I just played through the whole entire thing again for this review. I still like playing it, even for just a while. If I want to just play for a few minutes, I'll play through the first couple levels. You know, you could probably beat this game in just a couple hours if you get really good at it and you're ready for all the tricks and stuff that it throws at you, because it's going to do the same thing every time you play it. Once you memorized it, it's the same game. There are some sort of unfair parts, and it can be frustrating going through it the first couple times, but once you get it down, it's just a really fun time. It's a one of a kind. They just don't make them like this anymore. In fact, they really didn't make them like this before they made this. But they certainly don't make them like this anymore. As for how it holds up today, the cartoon graphics, they never go out of style. They always look great. And the platforming is a fun way to play video games when you don't feel like getting into some huge game that you need to be 100% focused on. Some of these giant games we get today. That, and you have to remember, fart jokes never get old. So for this episode of Fun or Run, Boogerman, a pick and flick adventure, I will always love this silly, stinky thing. Absolutely, this game is fun.
Booger!
Hey, thanks everybody for sticking with me and watching the entire video. I hope you liked it. The best way to help out the channel is to leave a like, leave a comment, and tell your friends. If you'd like to support the channel further, there are links in the description. But otherwise, always remember that you never outgrow video games. My name's Chad the Gaming Dad, and we'll see you on the next one. So long, everybody.